places like this don't exist. The proximity to the beach, the wildlife refuge.
Boca Chica did not change for a lot of years until SpaceX came in, and then it's changed drastically.
Our first thoughts were, what's going to happen to us? I'm guessing that Elon Musk makes the big decisions.
The people that are fans see him as a visionary, and there's truth to that. I see him as a ruthless businessman.
Musk sold his first computer program at the age of 12, and he hasn't stopped selling since.
Tesla CEO Elon Musk is set for an electrifying payday.
His other high-profile company, SpaceX. While some see colonizing other planets is a pipe dream, the SpaceX CEO has a very different outlook.
Who's got our back? No one. All the politicians, they love SpaceX. It means money in their pockets.
It feels like sort of total domination of the area. I mean, like, this is happening. When you have a corporation telling you, accept the offer or else, it was definitely a threat.
This is the offer, you take it.
There's a few people here that probably would rather die than sell.
There are a few still out there that don't want to leave. I would sure encourage these people to truly consider, is this worth it?
We knew that we were totally screwed.
I was aware of Elon Musk, and I'd seen him on 60 Minutes, and he seemed sort of interesting. And then next thing you know, he wants to come to Boca Chica, and I'm like there's got to be some. Are you kidding me? I mean, this is just a tiny little neighborhood in the middle of a national wildlife refuge. I just went bananas. It's like I was, getting in touch with whatever environmental groups I could about, everything that I could think of. I mean, birding and stargazing and, who knows what. And I just kept hoping something would happen to keep this from going forward. But I guess they'd been working on the relationships with the politicians back in 2011.
I used to head up the Economic Development Division here in Brownsville, Texas. It's a group that back in its day used to recruit the companies into town. By far, the most exciting project that I had personally worked on was SpaceX. The initial communication with the company was almost 10 years ago, and I remember that because I was at a parking lot of a Chuck E. Cheese for one of my son's birthdays, and I got the phone call from then Governor Rick Perry's chief of staff. 2 weeks later, we were already meeting with Elon Musk, and he starts talking about interplanetary travel and what have you. Then he kind of paused and put his hand on his chin, and he asked, do you know why I'm doing this? And then he proceeds to say, humanity can no longer sustain itself on this planet. I'm gonna be part of the solution and helping save humanity by colonizing Mars. And we're there like, right, this was a nice trip. I'm gonna get fired. How am I gonna come back to Brownsville, Texas, one of the poorest communities in the nation, communicate that we should use our hard-earned tax dollars to incentivize a company and have them come in, build rockets, and launch them into space? And then we met with County Judge 𝐒𝐨𝐿𝐿, and at first he was kind of like, really, this is the project that you have? But then we started looking at the economics behind it.
We were in competition with several other good communities. Puerto Rico was one. Of course, I think Alabama was another one. I believe Florida was another one. So our incentives were below what other areas were offering. But I believe that Elon Musk saw this area as an opportunity.
The path of the rocket needs to be one that is safe for the people below it. And you also want to launch eastward with the Earth's rotation.
Because when the rocket is launched off of a coast, and it has to get launched over a large body of water. In case of some catastrophic event, it just falls into the water. So there's times when that area will have to be shut down for rocket operations.
Mr. Oliveira, who is a state representative, introduced legislation to give counties the authority to specifically close Highway 4 to Boca Chica Beach for SpaceX launches.
Some high-level staff members from SpaceX approached me and asked for my support. And of course, the more I heard about it, the more excited I got about it. Immediately, it was going to create 600 jobs with an average salary of $55,000 a year. That may not seem like a lot of money in some areas, but when you're one of the poorest counties in the nation, it does mean a lot. The biggest problem under Texas law is all Texas beaches are open beaches. They normally cannot be closed. SpaceX justifiably required that the beach be closed about 12 hours before the launch and then 12 hours after the launch. And that had only been done one time in the history of Texas, and it was for a Brad Pitt movie, and it was done in Galveston. It was done illegally in Galveston because they violated the law. Nobody bothered to enforce it. I got to know Elon Musk very well. We had to go before the House Appropriations Committee to get some tentative funding.
We're talking about something that's really the big leagues here. This would be kind of a commercial version of Cape Canaveral. So it would be an historical first in the world. It would be of very great significance both to the local economy as well as to the world, really.
That room was very impressed and receptive with his vision.
Brownsville officials say they're one step closer to getting SpaceX to build a launch site in the valley. They say support from State Rep Renee Oliveira, who filed a bill yesterday supporting the project, will go a long way.
After a lot of negotiations, a lot of hard work, a lot of give and take, we finally signed it and approved by the commission on a 4-to-1 vote.
It would allow the temporary closure of Boca Chica Beach for the launches, and Brownsville officials say this sends a message to SpaceX that they are wanted here in Cameron County.
It brought joy to my heart. I said, this is going to happen. This isn't a dream anymore. It's not a childhood fantasy about space travel. It is real.
A rebirth of sorts in industry for the city of Brownsville as they win the bid to house SpaceX and brings hundreds of jobs and millions of dollars in salaries right here to the valley.
Everybody that wanted to be somebody was at the groundbreaking. Governor Perry came down, Elon Musk, and other dignitaries.
The mood was electric. It was one of the biggest economic opportunities that the area had ever seen, and it put us on the map.
Long-term goal is to create the technology necessary to establish a base on Mars. So it could very well be that the first person that departs for another planet could depart from this location. So.
I still get goosebumps just thinking about when he said that, and I'm like, I keep my job, right? The Boca Chica Beach area, a lot of it is owned by the state, Texas Parks and Wildlife, and then you have pockets here and there where it's owned by private parties. That's how you ended up with that little subdivision out there, the Boca Chica Village. I remember driving in, and it was a little eerie because it was abandoned and there was just a handful of families living out there.
The few people that live out there, you have no wastewater, no fresh water. It's got to be, at least by modern standards, a hard life.
A lot of these folks are retirees. They've been there for decades. I can tell you that when I was there was no discussion regarding what are we going to do about this community.
So the house was built in '65.
My mother-in-law and father-in-law originally bought it, and it's been in the family for at least 40 years. And this is where we get our water, of course, a big old water tank. And they come about once a month and fill the tanks. Right. Puppy is my watchdog. I'm a high school secretary at a small town in Iowa. I prefer to come in the summer, which is when I can come because I work at a school, so we have the summer off. But my husband is a farmer and he likes to fish, so being close to the beach, that's a plus. I just like to sit on the beach, so it's my draw, to sit and enjoy the waves and the sand between your toes. I don't know, for us, this little bit of nothing here is probably the only vacation home we'll ever have, so eventually it'll be retirement, you know, but I know it's not much, but
yeah, I've been here in Boca Chica Beach since 1992. It's almost 30 years now. This has been a part of my life. My whole life, actually, because when we were little, my parents used to bring us here to the beach. I bought 2 houses here because I have 2 sons. So I figure that when I die, one of my sons can have a house each, and then they would always keep their roots here. Here, I am surrounded by water. There's a bird sanctuary here. We see tons of birds. Like one time there was like 200-300 blue buntings. They're iridescent blue. And then they all came and landed on a tree, and it looked like a Christmas tree decorated with blue buntings. It's a wildlife refuge. There is no other place like this.
So this is probably the most undeveloped beach in Texas. The only thing you see here are occasional garbage cans. There's no bathroom, there's no store, there's no nothing. There's several species of terns, several species of plovers. In the wetland areas, you'll have curlews, dowitchers, and all kinds of shorebirds. And then of course you get brown pelicans coming over us right now. Most of the public and the politicians are so enamored by the space program that they probably think it's great. And even Elon Musk said, it's not a problem if things blow up. There's nothing out here. There is a lot out here, but it's subtle. It's not in plain sight. It has none of the majesty of, the redwoods or Yosemite or the Grand Tetons, but has more plant and animal species than any of those by far. Not even close.
I have a Facebook page, SpaceX Boca Chica, that is a documentation for the progress of SpaceX. Before SpaceX got here, there was no traffic except for local fishermen. There was more bird life, more coyotes walking around. I was a sunrise photographer. It's all about getting right out of bed and down to the beach. Yeah, it was the funnest place I'd ever lived. One morning, I looked out my bedroom window and I said, wow, it's happening. I realized there is no stopping this. And once you realize there's no stopping it, then you make plan B. Plan B was to get the camera out.
September of 2019, we all got these sort of ridiculous letters saying, here's the appraisal that we did on your house. It was just what we were all calling a drive-by appraisal, but we're offering you a 3 times offer of that ridiculously low appraisal, and then you have 2 weeks from the date of the letter to decide.
I get this big package from FedEx, and it's a 65-page offer to buy the house. So I decided, since I am retired, to read it. And I read it, and as I read along the contract, the offer, I kept getting more insulted about it. One of the things he said was that Brownsville had the most uneducated people. That insulted me because all my family, I have teachers in the family, I have lawyers in the family. I have never seen such a huge stack of papers to make us such a small offer, and a threatening bully type offer.
They were willing to pay 3 times what their appraiser from the road said it was worth. So that gives us $150,000. What are you going to do with it? You can't go buy a house 1.5 miles from the beach for that. Nowhere. So of course we rejected them. Got kind of a nasty voicemail from their realtor. Let me see if I can find it here. Somewhere in this mess, it's here.
Hey, this is Elizabeth over at JLL. SpaceX is writing me because they want to have all the offers in, and they said that if they don't hear back from people, they will assume that they are no longer interested. This worries me because that 3 times value will be off the table, and you won't be able to get anything close to that offer should the county step in and proceed with eminent domain. Thanks, bye.
You know, when you go through eminent domain, it's because there's a government purpose. I didn't believe, still don't believe, that it would be appropriate to use eminent domain for a private company, regardless of what it is. I don't think that that's right.
The state has the power to take property, but I've never wanted to invoke that, never thought about invoking it, and was never asked by SpaceX to invoke it. So, to their credit, they've accepted them as neighbors. Whether they can live with each other, we'll see as time passes.
An exciting announcement expected this week about ongoing developments for SpaceX. The company is planning a presentation on the future of its operations, including the future of the Starship right here near Boca Chica Beach tomorrow, September the 28th.
Elon Musk planned a big event here and invited us to go. And then I think my curiosity got the best of me, and a lot of the other neighbors were going to go. So I decided to go.
They wanted the villagers to all go as a group, stuck us in a bus and took us over there.
When we got there, they led us to this roped off area that was kind of at the front to where we would be able to see him at the podium.
The critical thing that we need to focus on, I think, is the fastest path to a self-sustaining city on Mars.
We had just got in this buyout letter just days before, and it had some pretty unfriendly language, and I think Elon wanted to smooth that unfriendly language down. He wanted to see us sell.
I think the actual danger to Boca Chica Village is low, but it's not tiny. So therefore, we want super tiny risk. So probably over time, better to buy out the villages, and we've made an offer to that effect. Yeah.
I got some great pictures, and I was ready to go home, and they said a special visitor wants to meet you.
And it's like, well, of course we know who they're talking about. I mean, by the time he came, it was ridiculously late. I want to say it was like 11:30, and we were there for hours. So, you know, he comes in with his entourage and comes up, and we were pretty harsh, you know, started asking him questions about everything and, you know, all about these buyouts and appraisals.
It was a very tense moment of, number one, why did you leave us sitting up here when we're priority? Number two is, what's this letter all about? You know, what do you mean that you're gonna give us 3 times offer or else?
He didn't say a whole lot. He did a lot of telling the woman that he was treating as his assistant, kind of like if we would say something, he'd say something to her like, look into that. They just let us talk. It's not gonna change anything, and it didn't.
So when I told him you all happened right out my bedroom window, that's when I started documenting on Facebook. And he goes, well, I've seen your page and it's nice. He goes, I like it. And I was flattered. He got very quiet and he just barely leaned over towards me and said, you don't want to live there. And that's when the light bulb went off in my head. It wasn't a question of if, it was a question of when.
They're getting ready to extend the boundaries across the field here to the new acquired properties. This is going to be a parking lot, I think. That's my guess.
There has been tons of freight going down to the launch pad. There's been freight all night long on the road, and there's been pile driving over here. Very noisy this morning.
Well, they're moving into the neighborhood. They bought the village homes, except for about 5 of them, the last I heard. So they're coming over to the next lot, and there's only one lot left between this property and SpaceX's, so out my bedroom window literally came almost to the window before we got moved out. So we lasted longer than I thought we would. Even though I'm moving, I still take care of my garden. The wife of the senior engineer that's going to be moving in here, I think wanted this house especially because it had a landscaped beautification, curbside appeal. They told us we should sell because it's not going to be recognizable in 6 months, and if you're not out of here soon, you're going to be sorry you're not. So they were right. So I love all you guys. It's been a real joy to be neighbors with SpaceX up until now, and bringing you the future. It's been a real joy.
And it was abundantly clear that, you know, we weren't part of this at all. I mean, you know, it's kind of like the old Western movies where, you know, what is it when like the Indians surround the cowboys, or I don't know which way it goes, but that's the way it felt. From the get-go, it's been kind of not, you know, like they don't need to tell us anything. You know, they established relationships with the people that they needed to have in their corner. And, you know, we were just something to sort of be dealt with as far as I'm concerned. Almost like a bug to just shoo off of somebody's arm.
I don't believe that Cameron County reached out to these folks. I don't know if anyone ever anticipated that SpaceX was going to want to acquire them. That was never a discussion to my knowledge. So obviously they weren't happy about it. Their Shangri-La was being basically ruptured. But I think Spock said once that the good of the many is better than the good of the few, or something like that.
The needs of the many outweighed the needs of the few. I wish we could have made it better for them. But just like you couldn't stand in the way of train tracks coming into the west, you can't stop these things either.
This is the new home. This is SpaceX still in my backyard. That's the production complex, and the launch pad's still in the haze. Just couldn't move too far away yet, you know? Okay, let's roll. People like to run these stop signs, but I kind of like them. Gives me a chance to say hi to everybody. Never lived in civilization before. I've always been a wilderness girl. Well, there's a road closure today, tomorrow, and Wednesday, and I'm heading out to SpaceX's compound to film for my Facebook page. I come out here about 3 times a week. I like to get out before the road closure. Yes, we're in. This is the checkpoint, and it's opened. I cooperated in the sale of my property, so they gave us benefits, perks. They call us influencers. What Elon said he wanted me to do was to do what I have always done, but just do it from the street. So I said, you know, that's not a bad deal. Not a bad deal. Pristine. It was very quiet back here just yesterday. I'm just gonna film the expansion and make sure it gets respected. I'll put it in my video. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. You got any suggestions where I can go to the bathroom now?
I don't know.
I don't either. Thanks. Yeah, we got to stay on the county side.
Just got back down here yesterday, and the first thing I noticed is, like, you can tell that they've been using the side of our house for a driveway. When I first seen it, I was just like, what the heck? And I parked my Jeep in the way so they couldn't go that way.
It's very frustrating, but they just, like, while we're gone, it's like, you never know what you're gonna see when you come back down. This time it was the trees, and they just disappeared. And like, so this is our view now. This is not acceptable.
I mean, the yard was never glorious before that, but now it's like demolished. But they can cut all the trees down they want. We'll still be here.
Sometimes our neighbors are our best friends, and sometimes our neighbors are a big pain that we have to live with. And SpaceX comes with, you know, its blessings and curses for them. I would sure encourage these people, because I think they're good people, to truly consider, is this worth it?
Back in December, my rental house was broken in by one of SpaceX's employees, one or two. I went over there and somebody had broken into the house and broken the door locks and broken the window, threw a brick in. The brick was still there and the glass was still there. And they were living there. They had it set up so in case the owner came in, they would climb on a stool, then on a dresser, and then up into the attic and hide. So I called the sheriff's department. It took me about 5 months, but SpaceX did end up paying for the damage. The employees have been really kind of weird. Even if you try and be friendly, wave to them, they don't wave back. They made me feel like I was an intruder, and actually they are the intruders.
So this is an alert we would get from SpaceX that the sheriff would deliver regarding an upcoming testing event. And it just says alert, potential risk to health and safety, action required. To residents or occupants of Boca Chica Village, SpaceX will conduct space flight activities. There is a risk that a malfunction of the SpaceX vehicle during these activities will create an overpressure event that can break windows. At a minimum, you must exit your home or structure to avoid or minimize the risk of injury. It started May 3rd, so May 3rd, May 4th, I guess through the 6th, and it was like 12, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. You know, and sometimes it would be 12 hours at a time. It was 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., and when they started that, they came and knocked on the door at 6 a.m. to deliver this. I don't think they just decided at 5:30 in the morning that they were going to do this, so they certainly could have told us before. The way they handled all this was like harass the people that are here so they won't want to be here. I mean, so you know, it's all by design.
I have one of my bedrooms boarded up because, you know, they've blown every test of every rocket they tested, they've blown it up. The explosion was so loud that all the windows rattled, of course. The explosion before that broke my kitchen window. This last one left me kind of deaf for about a half hour, 45 minutes. I call that my bunker because that's where I go when they're gonna do the testing. I went from a nice, peaceful vacation home to a war zone.
SpaceX has turned out to be a larger threat than we first realized. There have been multiple explosions, at least 2 fires. There was an explosion that then caused over 100-acre brush fire on wildlife refuge land. What SpaceX is doing now is very different than what they said they would do back in 2013-14. Starship is going to be the largest rocket ever made in the United States, and that's being developed and tested here. That's a much different thing than having a launch every 1 or 2 months. Their appetite for taking over more and more of this area just seems kind of unstoppable.
I read what people write to me from all over the world, and it makes you cry. The hope that they see, another building going up, and the dreams that they have. It's our old house. Yep, so totally consumed. This is our old house. If it looked like my old house, I'd probably feel pretty bad, but now that it's been converted into an industrial zone, it doesn't have much of an appeal. So you're looking right at the front door. The house was all tiled floor throughout with a big great room, and for the small square footage, it felt like a very big house. You could, you know, just go down to the beach and have a party with people you didn't even know. It was easy. That house was rocking. It was just a rocking house. We howled with the coyotes. It's corporate America. It's gonna come to your front door soon too. It's not just us. The people that sold to SpaceX that aren't the holdouts, we walk around with chump change in our pocket. I'm one of the chump changers, and that's what you gotta do when corporate America takes over your front yard. And in our case, our backyard, and our side yard, and our house. So if you want to do something and it's not on the up and up, come to Texas. You can get her done. Did you guys hear anything yet? Did you hear any change in access? Did you see my letter that gives me exclusive to have access to all special events and closures?
I was told today by SpaceX. Okay.
That's Alma.
Yes.
Alma's local. I'm dealing with Hawthorne, California. And this was a negotiated...
Let me go out there and make contact with SpaceX, and I'll come back and let you know, okay?
And I've tweeted out to Elon to help me, and he's got my phone number also.
Okay.
So they said he's off of Twitter right now.
Let me go out there, and
okay.
let you know, okay?
Thanks. When I sold my property, I didn't want any interruption to what I was doing. One of the main things that I wanted to make sure of is that the access to being able to film like Boca Chica Maria, I wanted that to continue even during the road closures. And they assured me that there would be no interruption to what I ever did before. I'm supposed to continue doing what I do because I cooperated fully with the sale of my property. So that cooperation has definitely not paid off today.
We were under a lot of pressure. It was like basically take this or else. And then you're going, what's the or else? It was definitely a threat. I sold the house and then immediately regretted it. Holidays hit, and sometime after the holidays, I was looking for an attorney. We talked about what it takes to unwind a sale in Texas, and you know, there's 3 elements, and I had 2 of them. One was under duress and fraudulently induced. Because they were telling us from way back that it wasn't safe for us to be here, and they made it seem as if they were going to just, you know, bulldoze the houses and no one was going to live here. Some of the houses that sold have SpaceX employees living in them, and we'll see them jog up and down the street, and I've seen a couple of people with a dog, and, you know, they're just, you know, living here. So if I have to give up everything and they get to ruin this amazing area, it's like, you know, I'd actually like to go to court with them. I would like SpaceX to have to answer to someone for what they've done.
This is Georgie. This is Georgie. I know. I just thought I'd stop by and see how you're doing. That I don't go? Well, we'll see. that's kind of been depressing me actually, because it's like there's, you know, how do you replace this, you know? So
she's my best friend. She's fighting back because everybody here sold under duress. The way they made their offers and bullied us and made me feel like I had a gun pointed in my head. This is America. And in America, we don't do business like that, I says. In America, when a house goes up for sale, the buyer and the seller both walk away happy or there is no transaction made. That's why I have resisted selling to SpaceX, even though they threatened with eminent domain. I still refused. My question is, why should I give up my dream for Ilan to accomplish his dream? It is no longer the Boca Chica village, Boca Chica beach that we always knew. But I still love it, and I still intend to stay here unless they kick me out forcefully.
Elon Musk is the 7th wealthiest person in the world now. If he wants to offer him $5 million for, you know, at some point someone is going to take the money. I just don't think that they realize the commitment that some of these people that have lived there for decades had, in my opinion.
I know this, like, people look at it and say, oh, it's like a little cardboard box. Why wouldn't they just not get rid of it, you know? But somebody who, like, worked all their life and saved up for it, you know, and then they just want to, somebody scoops in and says, I want you guys all to leave, you know? I mean, he knew we were here, and I don't know if Mr. Musk just thought that we wouldn't care, you know, like he would be easy to get rid of. I kind of just think he thinks money can buy everything, and we should be glad we were getting the 3 times, and we should just go. But you know, money can't buy everything, so here we are.
There it goes, it's going.
A major test for the Hopper rocket in Boca Chica was a huge success.
It's just phenomenal, and it's just the beginning.
Elon Musk's SpaceX won a multi-billion-dollar contract with the Department of Defense.
The SN5 now up in the air.
It's part of an economic necessity for our area. It's part of the future of mankind and of humanity. We can't stop it for a few people. We have to look into space for the future of humanity.
I have no interest in going to Mars. It's not even safe to go to Mars. Apparently, if people go to Mars, they probably won't make it back okay. I mean, they may not make it back alive, and they probably won't be okay if they come back. So if they want to just go live on Mars, that's fine. I hope Elon's the first one to go.